Akshan, or is it Ashkan?
Akshan.
I thought it was AK Sean.
Akshan. Okay.
Akshan, yeah.
he's just-
Oh, like action. I see.
Yeah, it's like action, yeah, is the idea.
Oh, that's clever. All right, so we've got his abilities are out, as well as his champion trailer and the champion insight. So we'll just run through the abilities really quick.
Can we just talk about his trailer like really quick first, though?
Yeah, sure.
I think he's one of my favorite characters. Like, I mean, they've definitely put a lot more effort into him than some other characters with their trailer and stuff. But he's so fucking personable. Like, I just like this character already. We'll get into why I don't like him when we get to his abilities. But as for his like actual like personality, voice actor, like kind of just, I don't know. He seems like it's just a very joyous, like kind of happy dude. I really like him as a character. He's one of my favorite like character personality wise in a long time, I think.
Oh yeah, he seems really cool, like very extroverted, and kind of fits well within League, I think.
Yeah,
but pretty cool. Awesome. We've got his abilities. Passive is Dirty Fighting. Every 3 hits from his auto attacks and damaging abilities deal a burst of physical damage. If the target was a champion, he also gains a shield. After attacking, he fires a second attack that deals reduced physical damage. The second shot can be canceled just like a regular basic attack. If he cancels the second shot, he gains a burst of movement speed. His Q is Avengerang. He throws a boomerang that deals physical damage and reveals enemies hit, extending its range each time it hits an enemy. Enemies can be hit once the boomerang goes out and once it returns. His W is Going Rogue. Passively, when enemy champions kill one of his allies, they are marked as scoundrels. When he gets a takedown on a scoundrel, he gains bonus gold. All allies killed by the scoundrel are resurrected at their base, and the scoundrel status is removed from all other enemies. When you activate it, you become camouflaged for a short duration, or indefinitely while near terrain. During this time, he can see the trails leading towards scoundrels, and gains movement speed and mana regen while moving towards them. His E is Heroic Swing. He fires a hook shot that embeds in the first terrain hit. While embedded, he can recast to swing around the terrain in the cast direction, firing physical damage bullets at the nearest enemy while swinging. While he is swinging, he can recast it again to jump off in the direction of the cursor and fire a final shot. His cooldown the cooldown of this ability resets when he earns a takedown on an enemy champion. And his ultimate, finally, is Comeuppance. He locks onto an enemy champion and begins channeling power into his gun to store bullets. At the end of the duration, or after recasting, he unleashes the stored bullets, dealing physical damage based on missing health to the first minion, champion, or structure hit. He can move normally and cast his E while channeling and firing Comeuppance. So, awesome.
So what do we
right
think
off the
initially?
bat,
Yeah.
So, I do think, so I think he has certain abilities that are very powerful, and some that are just okay. I think his passive is really strong, and I think his ultimate is pretty good, just because of the way it interacts with the game. But I think everything else is kind of just okay. And I think the biggest issue that people are having is his W, which I think is kind of just okay. Very, very situational.
I think his W is one of those abilities that 95% of the time it won't be a high impact ability and won't make a difference. And even a higher, like lower percentage of the time it will make a difference in competitive play. I think this character is not a competitive like League of Legends character at all, right? He's very much a solo queue pub stomper character. That being said, I think the issue with a lot of people, and the issue that I see as well, is the 10% or 5% of situations where his W passive does make a difference feels rough, man. Like the late game situations where like a Viego maybe like resets and kills 4 of your teammates or 3 of your teammates or whatever, and Akshan kills him and then resets the like just respawns everyone on your team back for like Elder or Baron. Those are the situations where you go, holy fuck, that's that guy's W's passive. You go, oh my god, that's crazy. Overall though, I don't think it's something an ability that like really makes a difference most of the time, which I think a lot of people are like overplaying how much it will be used. Like early game, death timers aren't long enough for it to be used, right? Late game, like the late game fantasy, of course, is like he kills someone who's got 4 kills, but usually if someone gets 4 kills, they're probably going to kill this fucking 80 carry character, right?
Yeah.
Is like the reality. Like it really, the main use of this is like kind of this mid-game type spike where maybe like you're having a team fight around dragon and someone gets double kill and you kill them and then it resets 2 your cooldown so that they can't take dragon. Like that, I mean 2 your death timers.
I think
but like
that's generally what we're gonna see. But I think also I would not be surprised to see very specific combos played with Akshan because of this. My immediate thought is that like a Shen can E-flash in and just say like, I'm going to die 100%. Akshan will revive me and I'll just ult onto him and I get to team fight twice.
Yeah, I mean, like
right, and like that can happen, and I think that's the fringe case we're talking about. But I do think it allows really interesting drafts where it's like, hey, you're going to blatantly suicide for a good engage because you're gonna res and TP back, right? So you might take that Malphite ult that you wouldn't if you don't have an Akshan on your team, and I think that's more interesting than the like, oh, well, what if our Katarina gets a quadra kill, but then Akshan kills her, and now his whole team is like, okay, yeah, that could happen, but
I watched LS talking about it. I don't think LS like fully like he talked about it before the character was out and we saw his numbers and all that stuff. We can talk about his numbers in a second as well. But LS's main concern, he looked at the competitive side, like how viable is this character for competitive? The answer is not really, because he kind of is like a solo queue stomper character for the most part. But the one thing that is pretty consistent that you can do on this character involves W. So he gets 100 gold when he kills the scoundrel character and resets the death timer of his allies that die. So like a pretty easy to execute play is playing Akshan top or mid, going for a dive on a character with your jungler purposely being the one to tank, because if your jungler dies to them, you get the kill, you get an extra 100 gold, you get assist goal on it, and your jungler gets revived. Right?
Yeah,
like
that's true.
That's a
really
pretty
good point.
easy to execute way to use his W like early to mid game, right? Like dives are pretty fucking free in theory with that. Outside of that though, I don't think there's any like real like, I'm gonna purposely do this. We're purposely gonna give their character 4 kills so he gets the gold and then we reset, and like none of that's gonna really happen. I do think the dive potential is something to consider at least though.
Yeah, I think that the dive potential is the one of the places we'll see it more utilized in an actually like consistent, potentially competitive environment. I think maybe some specific split pushers or TP characters might be able to do it, but I think that's probably the bread and butter of that ability being good. Obviously, there will be plenty of fringe cases. I think it'll be hilarious for level 1 fights. And I also thought, well, what's even funnier than a level 1 fight, Aidan, is getting a 1-for-1 Akshan.
Yeah.
And take it a step further, one of the game modes with like the fucking cannon, that fight never ends. That fight never ends.
Yeah.
I mean, so I want to draw a comparison to Soraka, who I think is another like very similar, like, I will save my teammates if you don't deal with me sort of character. But you just kill her first, right? And obviously that's easy to say like out of game, but I think this is going to be the way to deal with action is like just kill him. You know, he's it looks like he has a very short auto attack range, so he's not going to be as safe as Senna while reviving your entire team like every single team fight. That's not going to happen. And I think this is going to be super overblown. The impact of this ability, I do think like, and
he has to kill on the scoundrel. They don't just need to die, which I think
it's just a takedown.
Yeah,
so
he
can just get an assist.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it has to be an assist on that one character that kills whoever's on the team.
Yep.
So
just to quickly look over some numbers. Not that like numbers obviously subject to change because he won't be out for 2 weeks time. So he's gonna go on the PvE. We might see some changes. Some numbers that I saw that stood out is, first of all, I love the mechanic of he shoots like 2 autos, kind of like Lucian, how Lucian goes bang bang sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
but he can cancel his second auto and get movement speed instead. That's a fucking cool mechanic. What I learned though is that movement speed scales with attack speed.
Oh, that's
and it's
crazy.
Like, it scales with 100% attack speed, which is
Huh.
kind of crazy. So already this tells me this character is going to be a fucking like a weak bitch character, but he's super nimble, right? So his passive has this movement speed component too. His Q has a movement speed component when you hit someone with it. His W obviously has the stealth component. By the way, the scaling on the W camouflage is the weirdest scaling I've ever seen on an ability in my life. It starts at
It
18
looks weird,
seconds
yeah.
and it scales down to 2. Obviously, you can use it for infinite duration if you're near a wall, and that's kind of how it's supposed to be used. You're supposed to use it and then like chase down a scoundrel by like moving through like walls and near bushes and stuff like that. But holy fuck, that ability scales down. That might be a little bit miserable later. We'll have to see.
And it is worth noting that the reveal range for Akshan is larger than any other in the game. It's massive.
Yeah, it's definitely bigger than his auto range. It's bigger than like Twitch Q. It's bigger than or Twitch stealth. It's bigger than like anything. His hook looks pretty basic, and then
it looks like about the range of the exclamation point for Rengar, not the actual camouflage or jump distance, but like the range at which you get a notification. I think is the closest comparison.
The circle just about touches all 4 corners of the mid lane walls.
Yeah, the main purpose of that definitely is to get in on your scoundrel rather than like assassinating them. You're not getting in and like assassinating them. You're more just getting to them with that ability. So that's good.
Yeah.
And then his ultimate, I haven't seen too many people talk about this. His ultimate,
I love his ultimate.
Scales up with bullets. It looks so fucking cool. It's like a lock-on Caitlyn type ult, but you have to charge it, and you can use your swing. You can use movement. It's so fucking cool, man. It does a lot of damage. It does damage based on missing health too. So like late game, it can be doing like I don't know, like 700, 800 plus damage, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, you do have to charge for a long time, and there is the caveat of it hits minions, champions, and turrets. Yeah. So you have a lot of options to play around it.
Yeah, you can hide behind something pretty easily.
As well as a channeled versus a cast time, so it is interruptible based on that wording.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think it has to be. But also, like, the because he can move and use his abilities during it, right? It's like he gets to maneuver around, but he can also be canceled, which I think is a really good like counterbalance. Where if he couldn't use anything else, then maybe you don't make that cancelable. But
yeah, for sure. I think the only issue I have with his ultimate is I feel like he probably should have a movement speed penalty while channeling. But I mean that's a small thing, so
yeah, he's really cool. I'm reading through the insights page for him, and I think they show a use of his hook shot. His hook shot's crazy around turrets, man. When you do the full like 180 around the entire turret, oh my god, that level of movement is insane. I'm so excited to see it in game.
Yeah, I want to see it with a Trundle pillar, man. Like they just drop a pillar in the middle of mid lane, and Akshan's just swinging.
That's so sick.
Oh,
yeah, I'm very excited for him. He's one of my favorite like looking character releases in a while for sure.
Nice.
He's definitely supposed to be because a lot of people are talking about, well, why isn't he just going to be an 80 carry if he's like weaker? Like, because they've talked about him being like kind of very item dependent, like low base stats, yada yada yada. Which obviously like kind of goes in line with his scoundrel mechanic. You're supposed to get extra gold from scoundrel, yada yada yada. But I really, he's supposed to be like almost like a really weak 80 carry, but he's kind of like a burst mage, but the 80 carry version of a burst mage. So he's kind of like an assassin, but he's an 80 carry assassin in a way. A lot of his damage is kind of bursty. He's not going to be like a Lucian-esque character by any means. Like I know people are making comparisons to the other 80 carries that go mid, but I think he's going to be. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be a top laner personally, rather than like a mid laner. But we'll have to see.
I think the only reason that I can think of is I feel like his hookshot is probably better with more options, and I think and in a shorter lane. So I think having the 4 walls that he could cast off of, in addition to like not having to commit to just the outside wall, assuming you're being like ganked or something like that, like puts him better in the mid lane versus in the top lane. But again, I mean, he's literally not even on the PBE yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'm just going off of what Rioters have said. Like Rioters have said that he's supposed to be mid, but I could see him being like great top as well. I feel like a lot of those mid lane AD carry characters that like pressure mids have always typically in theory been better top. But we'll have to see how it works. I'm really excited for him though. He's one of the coolest releases in a while.
Yeah, super sick.
Yeah,